Disclaimer: the following program is designed to offend, provoke, and challenge your religious sensibilities. It contains content that will likely offend anyone who holds religion sacred. This is for those with thick skin or a taste for the harsh truth. If you're easily offended or cherish your religious views, please turn off now. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. You have been warned. You're tuned into Troll the Verse, the only place where scripture gets body slammed harder than Jacob at the Jabbok River. Go ahead and hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe, because if God can sneak in at 3 a.m. to suplex his chosen man in the hip, the least you can do is click a button. And that's what makes Genesis 32 such a gem, not because it's holy, but because it hands us all the ammo. Angels show up and say absolutely nothing. Esau marches in with 400 men, like he's leading a militia, and God himself shows up like some back alley thug. It's cowardice, bribery, paranoia, and cheap shots all in one chapter. It's fantastic. Let's get into it. Jacob just fled Laban with his wives, kids, and a fortune in livestock, most of it gained through manipulation. Now he's heading straight into the unresolved disaster he left behind, Esau, the brother he tricked out of both the birthright and the blessing. Last time we saw Esau, he was planning to kill him. So Jacob's not just nervous, he's guilty, and he assumes Esau has every reason to attack. And that's when some of God's messengers show up. Not a word is spoken, no vision, no instructions, just a silent appearance. Other people in Genesis get actual messages from angels. Abraham, Hagar, Lot. Jacob? Well, according to these verses, Jacob gets nothing. The supposed chosen one gets a drive-by. Jacob sees the angels and jumps to the conclusion that this is the camp of God. Then he names the place two camps, not because of some profound moment, but because he's already planning to split his group in half to improve the odds if Esau starts swinging. It's a survival strategy. Some try to say the two camps refers to angels protecting him, or two armies, his and God's, but Jacob's actions say otherwise. He doesn't act reassured. He acts like he's about to be slaughtered. If these messengers were there to protect him, he doesn't trust it. He doesn't ask why they're there, doesn't talk to them, doesn't wait for a sign. He just flat out panics and starts prepping for slaughter. So he sends messengers to Esau. The text never says these are the same as the messengers from verse 1. There's no indication he's sending angels. The phrase messengers of God is dropped completely. These appear to be just his own servants. And he sends a note groveling. It says, "To my lord Esau, from your servant Jacob." The same man who stole Esau's identity and blessing is now calling him Lord and begging for grace. He also includes a list of all his wealth, oxen, donkeys, male and female slaves, as if to say, look how successful I've been, please don't kill me. It's less an apology and more a bribe. There's even a long-standing question about why Jacob sends a message at all. If he believes Esau is dangerous, why poke the bear? If Esau was busy living his life, this message could actually remind him what Jacob did. But Jacob assumes it's too late for that. He's already convinced Esau remembers, and he's bracing for violence. Jacob manufactures the threat in his own head, then panics at the story he told himself. So the moment messengers from God appear, Jacob doesn't feel protected. He feels exposed. He divides his people, sends gifts ahead, and bows on paper to the brother he cheated. Surrounded by angels, and he still thinks he's camping alone. The messengers return with a status update. Esau is coming, and he's not alone. He's bringing 400 men. No explanation, no tone, no stated reason, just, hey, your brother's on his way, and so is his army. 400 isn't a random number. In the Hebrew Bible, 400 men is code for a small army. Abraham fought with that number in Genesis 14. David rolled with that number later on. It's militia-sized. Jacob doesn't hear big family barbecue. He hears execution squad. Jacob immediately falls apart. He just saw angels a few verses ago. He's supposedly blessed. He's supposedly protected. But the second he hears 400 men, he panics. The text says he's exceedingly afraid and distressed. He names the place two camps again, but this time it isn't about angelic armies. It's about his own escape plan. If Esau wipes out one half, maybe the other half can get away. That's the grand strategy, God's camp in theory. But in practice, Jacob's two-camp survival split This isn't just logistics, it's psychology. The two camps are also inside Jacob. One side knows God made promises, the other side remembers exactly how he scammed Esau and expects payback. The guilt is as loud as the threat. Jacob is torn between trust and paranoia wins. Only after the panic plan does he turn to prayer. Notice the order here: angels first, fear second, strategy third, and only after all that, God. Prayer isn't his first thought, it's his fallback plan. And when he does pray, it reads less like worship and more like negotiation. O God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, you told me to come back and said you'd do good to me. So he's quoting God's own words back like leverage. It's a hostage bargain. Remember what you said? Don't forget the fine print now. Then the tone shifts. He says, I've been unworthy of all your kindness. Sure, but he didn't sound unworthy when he was lying, stealing, and running breeding scams. Humility suddenly shows up when he thinks he's about to be killed. It's convenient humility triggered by the sight of 400 men marching his way. And then the staff line, with my staff I passed over this Jordan, and now I've become two camps. Jacob paints it as a rags to riches testimony. He's reminding God, I came with nothing but a stick and now I'm loaded, which is true. But those riches weren't miracles. They were the spoils of trickery, swaps, and manipulation. He's humble bragging while begging, reminding God how far he's come and hinting that it would be a shame to waste all that progress now. He's not confessing. He's not trusting in his God. He's trying to bargain. He knows what he did to Esau, and he assumes the consequences are finally galloping toward him. Prayer here isn't belief. It reads to me like a kind of insurance plan. Jacob isn't praying from faith. He's stalling. Two camps outside him, two camps inside him, and not a shred of certainty that God will actually show up. Jacob's prayer gets blunt to his God. He says, deliver me from Esau. There's no flourish here anymore. Now he's just pleading not to die. He even imagines the worst. It says he might smite me, mother beside sons. That's his nightmare. Not just losing a fight, but Esau wiping out the women and children in one stroke. He's picturing his brother as a genocidal raider, and that says more about Jacob's fear and guilt than about Esau's actual intention. Then Jacob throws God's words back at him again and says, you said you'd do good to me. You said my descendants would be like the sands of the sea. This is the second time in one chapter he quotes the promise like a lifeline. He's not confident here. It reads like desperation. Remember the sand of the sea thing? Well, the sand can't multiply if Esau slaughters us tonight. And then comes Jacob's next move, livestock diplomacy. He gathers a present for Esau, but this isn't flowers and an apology card. This is a royal tribute, a herd avalanche. 200 she-goats, 20 he-goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 nursing camels with their calves, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, 10 foals. It's overkill. No one sends this much unless they're trying to buy safety. And the word used for present here is the same used for offerings to God. Jacob isn't just giving Esau a gift, he's appeasing him like a deity. He's treating his brother like the one who holds power over life and death. The man carrying God's covenant is bowing to Esau with the language of sacrifice. He keeps calling Esau my Lord and himself your servant. That's not just politeness, it's a reversal. Isaac's blessing declared Jacob Lord over his brothers. Now Jacob undoes it with his own mouth, hoping Esau will play along. For anyone watching, Jacob has effectively made Esau the patriarch. The chosen son is bowing, the blessed heir is begging, and the rejected brother is being treated like the true head of the family. And Jacob doesn't send it all at once. He splits the animals into droves, spacing them out, instructing his servants to deliver them in waves. It's choreographed psychology. Esau sees one flock, thinks that's the tribute, then another wave shows up, then another. It's manipulation through generosity, a bribe disguised as a parade. This is Jacob at his most transparent, terrified, guilty, scrambling, bribing, and staging the whole thing like theater. He prays, yes. But his real trust is in the livestock convoy. For all the covenant talk, Jacob's faith is in goats. Jacob isn't just sending a gift, he's launching a multi-stage emotional setup. He lines up each group of servants, gives them an exact script, and sends them out one by one with the same rehearsed line. These belong to your servant Jacob. It's a present. He's behind us. It's not just repetition, it's a ritual mantra. Jacob is drilling his servants to chant the same words over and over until Esau hears it so many times it starts to feel true. Every flock that passes repeats the hierarchy reversal. Your servant Jacob, my lord Esau. The blessing Isaac gave Jacob, be lord over your brothers, is being undone line by line, flock by flock. And it's also a lie. Jacob tells everyone to say he's behind us, but he isn't. He stays hidden in camp. He doesn't walk with the gifts, doesn't stand behind the herds, doesn't face his brother. He builds the illusion of presence without ever showing up. He's a coward. The pacing is calculated. Each drove is spaced out, so Esau thinks the gift is finished. Then more arrive, and more, and more. It's psychological strategy. Jacob's not trying to fix the relationship. He's trying to overload Esau's senses until anger is buried under waves of livestock. Jacob even admits it, I pacify his face with the present. The Hebrew literally means cover his face, not reconcile, not forgive. Just bribe him so he can't see his rage. Then maybe he'll lift up my face, which is Bible speak for maybe he'll let me live. Meanwhile, the text points out Jacob lodged that night in the camp. Darkness again. The man of the covenant spends the night hiding in fear, sending others out into the dark while he stays behind. His faith shrinks with the sunset. And through all of this, Esau hasn't said a word. He hasn't threatened. He hasn't demanded tribute. Jacob is reacting to a story in his head, an imagined wrath that he's scrambling to buy off. The parade is less about Esau's anger and more about Jacob's paranoia. If goats can't buy grace, Jacob's out of options. His faith isn't in God. It's in the hope Esau runs out of fury before Jacob runs out of livestock. Then Jacob wakes up in the middle of the night and decides it's time to move the whole caravan, 2 wives, 2 concubines, 11 kids, flocks, everything, across the river. No command from God, no dream, no explanation, just a midnight panic migration. Wake up, kids, we're crossing a river in the dark because dad's nerves are shot. Then, after sending everyone forward, he stays behind, alone, safe in the rear while his family's out front as the buffer. And that's when it happens. One wrestleth with him. That's it. No name, no intro, no angel of the Lord appeared, just some random man lunging at Jacob in the dark. Except Jacob later insists this wasn't just some man. It was God himself in human form. The creator of heaven and earth shows up, not in fire or glory, but in a midnight mugging on the riverbank. And they wrestle all night. Hours of sweaty grappling, no witnesses, no explanation. Then the man or God realizes he can't beat Jacob. Think about that. The Almighty can't win fairly against a shepherd. So he cheats. He blows out Jacob's hip with a cheap shot and cripples him. That's the move. Not omnipotence, not divine fire, just a dirty hit to the joint. Because Jacob was about to outlast God. Then the man or God says, let me go, for the dawn has ascended. Why? What happens at dawn? Does God turn back into a pumpkin at sunrise? Is he a vampire? Why would the all-powerful creator need to sneak away before someone sees him rolling in the dirt with Jacob? The text never explains, it just makes him sound like he's got a curfew. But Jacob, with his hip dislocated, limping, sweaty, and in shock, still won't let go. He says, I'm not letting go until you bless me. Of course he does. Jacob has one move, and that move is to get the blessing. Doesn't matter who it is or what just happened. He's hanging on. Only after that does he ask, what's your name? But even then, he never gets an answer. He's not looking for identity. He's looking for advantage. If there's a blessing to be squeezed out of the situation, he's squeezing. And that's the shift. Jacob's whole life has been running, scheming, and conning his way forward, stealing from Esau, tricking Isaac, manipulating Laban, bribing with goats. But this time he's in the dirt, crippled, clinging to a stranger in the night, demanding something better. He's not faking his way through it, he's wrestling through it, and he gets hurt doing it. And scholars have tied themselves in knots over who Jacob fought. Some rabbis say it was Esau's guardian angel. Others say Samael, the angel of death. Critical scholars suggest it was a leftover river spirit story, which explains why the figure had to leave before dawn. Christian interpreters call it a pre-incarnate Christ. But the problem is, Jacob himself settles the question, I have seen God face to face. Whatever anyone else thinks, the man who limped away swore it was God in the flesh. So after all night wrestling and a dislocated hip, the mystery man finally speaks. First thing out of his mouth, he asks Jacob, what's your name? And Jacob answers, Jacob. So now you have to ask, why is God asking Jacob's name like they've never met? This is the same guy he chose before birth, appeared to in dreams, made covenant promises with, and literally just told to go home. Now he's like, sorry, remind me, who are you again? Then the man says, you're not Jacob anymore. You're Israel, because you've wrestled with God and men and prevailed. So let's just state it clearly. He admits he's God. This isn't an angel. It's not a metaphor. The man himself says Jacob wrestled with God, but he also just asked Jacob's name like he didn't know it. So which is it? Omniscient creator or clueless stranger? And the new name? Jacob goes from heel grabber or deceiver to the new name Israel, which is commonly read as he struggles with God. That's not exactly an upgrade. Congrats, you're no longer a cheater, you're now perpetual wrestler. Some traditions emphasize that the point isn't winning but enduring. He clung through the night, and that stubbornness is what defines Israel, which is fitting since the nation's whole legacy is endless struggle. With God, with enemies, with itself. And God says, Jacob prevailed. Prevailed. He's limping away crippled. If that's victory, it's victory with a limp baked in. Anyway, I digress. Then Jacob asked the natural follow-up question, like, okay, then what's your name? And the man, who just renamed Jacob and claimed to be God, says, why do you ask? That's it. No answer. He should just say, I am Yahweh, like he did to Abraham, Isaac, and later to Moses. Instead, he dodges. In the ancient world, knowing someone's name meant recognition, power, leverage. Jacob presses, but God blesses him and withholds his name, keeping the upper hand. So here's the problem with all this. If this is really God, why won't he say his name like he always does? Unless it's not Yahweh, which matches what scholars already point out, the Bible isn't originally clean monotheism. It's henotheism. Many gods exist, but one dominates. That's why you get Elohim, El Shaddai, Yahweh, the angel of Yahweh who talks as God, but also about God. And now this figure who calls himself God, renames Jacob, cripples him, but won't identify himself. It's messy. It reads like a mashup of multiple traditions. And Jacob doesn't care. He's not chasing theology. He just wants a blessing. It doesn't matter if it's Yahweh, an angel, or a river demon with a curfew. If there's blessing on the table, Jacob will take it. So he names the place Peniel, face of God, and says, I saw God face to face and lived, which sounds amazing until you hit Exodus 33, verse 20, where God flatly says, no man can see me and live. Judges 13, verse 22 repeats it. We shall surely die, for we have seen God. The Bible can't agree. Jacob claims survival. Elsewhere, seeing God is supposed to kill you on the spot. The sun rises. Jacob limps away. He has a new name, a wrecked hip, and no idea what just happened. And the legacy of this divine beatdown? A dietary law. Don't eat the sinew of the thigh. Not trust God through your struggles. Not learn to face what you fear. Just skip the hip tendon. That's the holy takeaway. And as I've already said, scholars have spent centuries trying to make this not God in this scene. But Jacob himself doesn't leave wiggle room. He swears he saw God in the flesh. Limping, renamed, injured, and ignored, he still names the place face of God and calls the stranger divine. This is how you become Israel. You lie, flee, panic, bribe your brother, wrestle a stranger who may or may not be Yahweh, get crippled, beg for a name, get stonewalled, limp into the sunrise, and build a food law out of the scar. That's the chosen people's origin story. So let's run back through what we just read real quick, because if this were your holy origin story, you'd want people distracted by the livestock parade too. Jacob lies, cheats, and flees. He assumes Esau is coming to murder him, so he sends bribes, sends a fake apology tour, and hides in the back like a coward. Then just when it's time to face the consequences, a stranger jumps him in the dark, snaps his hip out of socket, and he demands a blessing from the guy who just assaulted him. And instead of asking, why are you drop kicking my pelvis at 3 a.m., he claims like a raccoon on a power line until he gets a new name, Israel. Not faithful, not redeemed, just you wrestled and didn't let go. The attacker, who Jacob insists was God, won't even say his name. He blesses him and vanishes before sunrise like some back alley trickster. And the spiritual lesson, don't eat a specific thigh tendon. That's it. That's the moral. This is how the nation of Israel was born. If you ever wondered what chosen meant in this book, it's not some kind of higher moral clarity. It's surviving by the skin of your teeth, dragging your limp behind you and calling the bruises a blessings. And God, silent during the fear, silent during the bribes, silent when Jacob begs, but shows up just in time to snap his femur and vanish without giving a name. Welcome to Israel. This is your origin story. Like, comment, and subscribe, or God might show up tonight, suplex your hip, and vanish before sunrise without even telling you his name. I'll see you in the next one. Unless I'm too busy limping into my destiny.